Eerde, Netherlands, September of 1944. The Windmill stood like a sentry over the fields north of Eerde. Its sails were still. Its purpose, once simple and agricultural, had changed with the tide of war. Now it served the Screaming Eagles, the paratroopers of the 101st Airborne Division. 2 men from the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment had climbed into the upper gallery of the old structure that morning. The Windmill, tall and alone on the edge of the village, offered a rare advantage: height. Sergeant Jacob Wingard pressed his field glasses to his eyes and swept slowly across the landscape. Beyond the fields and hedgerows, somewhere in the mist, German forces were repositioning. His job was to find them. Next to him, Corporal Dick Klein worked over a folded map, pencil in hand. He adjusted bearings and fed fire missions to the mortar crews below. The two had worked together since Normandy. They had come a long way in a short time, across hedgerows, through villages, and now to the top of a windmill in occupied Holland. The air was tense. The early morning calm was deceptive. German shelling had ceased hours earlier, but no one trusted the silence. Then it broke. A single rifle shot cracked through the morning haze. Sergeant Wingard reeled backward and said, "I'm dead. I'm dead." Then the sound of him falling hard to the floorboards. Klein lunged to his side, calling his name, shaking his shoulder, but the damage was done. A German infantryman had crept through the fields, flanked the windmill, and fired up through a window. A single bullet had struck the sergeant cleanly. Klein froze for only a moment. Then came the howl of incoming artillery. The Germans had spotted the windmill. Whether by chance or by planning, it didn't matter. The next shell landed close enough to rock the tower. Klein grabbed the map case, turned, and descended the ladder as the frame above groaned under the strain. Another blast followed, closer. At ground level, he sprinted across open ground, boots sinking in churned earth, heart hammering in his chest. A final shell struck the upper gallery and the top of the windmill, sending bricks flying. From the safety of a low stone wall, Klein looked back. The windmill was too dangerous to return to for now. Sergeant Wingard was still up there. American mortarmen gathered nearby, some staring, others watching the tree line. No one spoke. The cost of their position had become real. They would return later to retrieve his body, but not under fire. Soon, but not yet. Nearly a week had passed since the windmill action, and the Germans were making another push to cut the highway there. The fight was not over, and neither was the duty. The church at the center of Eerde had weathered centuries of wind and rain, but now it bore the weight of something far heavier: war. Stone walls scarred by shellfire, stained glass shattered, wooden pews overturned. Only the bell tower remained largely intact, a lone sentinel above a battered village. With the windmill all but destroyed by German artillery, the Americans of the 501st Parachute Infantry Regiment turned to the church steeple for their next observation post. It was taller, sturdier, and gave a commanding view of the fields stretching beyond the town. Lieutenant Henry Howard volunteered to go up. He climbed slowly, boots echoing on the stone steps, past the cracked bell, and into the narrow upper platform. Dust hung in the air. Splinters and loose bricks marked where previous blasts had struck. But from here he could see everything: the farmland, the hedgerows, and the tree lines where German positions had taken root. Howard raised his field glasses and scanned the terrain. Near the northwest edge of the village, behind a thin line of trees, he spotted movement. A low silhouette crept forward, a German mobile tank destroyer. It halted behind a barn and turned its barrel toward Eerde. Howard keyed his radio. Observation post, a mortar team. Target identified. Anti-tank gun. Grid 43x71. Range 500. Direct fire. He relayed elevation and bearing. A mortar round whistled through the air. It landed short. Before he could correct the fire, the Germans struck back. A shell screamed toward the tower and slammed into the steeple. The blast shook the entire structure. Howard was thrown backwards, crashing down to the next floor. Dust and debris filled the chamber. The radio skidded across the floor. Stunned and bleeding from the scalp, Howard pulled himself upright. The structure held, but barely. A corporal called up from the stairs below. "Lieutenant, you've got to come down." Howard leaned against the wall and shouted back, "Bring me the flag." The order paused everyone in place. "The flag," he repeated. "From the jeep. Get it." Minutes later, the corporal returned with a folded American flag. Howard stepped out onto the exposed edge of the tower, tied the flag to a jagged section where part of the steeple had split open, and raised it above the church. The stars and stripes caught the wind and unfurled. The German gun crew noticed immediately. A second shell hit higher on the tower, showering Howard with dust and rubble. The flag was torn from its mount and drifted down to the ground. Howard turned to the men behind him, put it back up. Another soldier climbed up, tied it to the broken support. Moments later, another blast. The flag fell again. They raised it a third time, then a fourth. Each time the flag went up, the Germans fired. Each time it fell, the Americans replaced it. By the fifth raising, American mortars had found the German guns' range. A series of blasts rocked the field beyond the hedgerow. Smoke rose behind the barn. The German gun fell silent, Whether it was destroyed or forced to retreat, no one knew for certain, but it fired no more that day. The final flag remained, fluttering above the shattered steeple. Lieutenant Howard stood beside it, hands resting on the edge of the stone, his helmet dented, uniform streaked with dust and blood. The village had held. And so had the flag.